Well, good evening. Good evening to you and all of you. This is BongaDadaBonga, and this is your correspondent, Dashanaba King, with you for BongaDadaBonga this evening. You know, we're on the end of Women's History Month. I think we have one more day in the month before it's over. But we have had a spectacular Women's History Month 2023. And so tonight, what we want to do is to just reflect on what's happened this Women's History Month 2023. But before we go there, I just want to take a moment and talk about what's been going on in the world. And in the world, I want to talk about the world of BongaDadaBonga. As you know, we record the show live from Nairobi, Kenya every week, Thursdays at 7 p.m. East Africa time. But lately, on Thursdays, we may have a beautiful day, all day, and all day long. But when the rains come or the winds start blowing, it can knock us out of reception. So for the last few shows, we've been knocked out of reception to the extent that we could not even reach out to you and give you a message that we were going to be knocked out. So I just wanted to take a moment tonight and just explain to you what has happened. I don't think it's serious enough for me to think about getting a generator at this point. We just want to apologize, but there are some things that happen that sometimes it's like really out of our control. And we've learned that there are things in life that's out of our control. And so what we learn to do with that is to just deal with that in the way that it is. And not make yourself all flustered and upset about things that you can't do anything about or do anything with. Okay? Yeah. So that's what we're looking at doing. So whenever you don't get us on the show, and it has to do with elements that are out of our control, like the weather, then please excuse us. But please remember, please remember to just tune in with us again. Okay? Just please remember to just tune in with us again. All right. And now we have Kaya joining us
Good
tonight
evening. Good
for
evening.
the
How is
Bonga
everybody?
Dada Bonga show. Hello, beloved. How are you?
Hi, Dasha Dava. How everything is okay? I'm
You know
back in
something?
position.
We're back in position. You know what?
Um,
Women can change up so quick. You look like another woman. Now, if I didn't know that was you, I'd be like, no, wait a minute. Who is that? No, but I
yeah,
can see that
that's
it's
me.
you. I can see
That's
that it's
me. A
you.
new look, a new
Yes.
perspective, new horizons, new visions, new
All
dreams.
right. All right. All right.
And
So we're just,
I,
yes.
I was once told that whenever you stop dreaming, you may as well just die. So,
Hey. Okay. Well, now I don't know what to say about that because we're not gonna go that way in any shape, form, or fashion. But I started the show off tonight, Coach, just apologizing for the fact that we have not been on the air, and that's had to do with conditions out of our control, like
right.
the weather or global warming, things that truly out of our control. So we gave a big apology for that, and we were just getting ready to get into uh, the Bonga Dada Bonga show. Okay, um, and you can start with us and tell us what is Bonga Dada Bonga. Do you have that available?
No, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna get my notes. Bunga Dada Bunga is Speak Sister Speak. It is a show that illuminates women in history, their perspective, their stories. Bunga Dada Bunga gives us an opportunity to demonstrate and show our prowess as women. And I'm speaking from the head. BongaDadaBonga, Speak Sister Speak, empowers women to be brave and to be able to come forward to show what they bring to the table. BongaDadaBonga
All
ignites
right.
us,
Bonga
empowers
Dada
us,
Bonga.
and gives us the gives us to
I think I
empower
hear some
us.
music in the background. Do I hear some drums?
Yes, yes. We are on a mission to heal. Uh, and drumming seems to calm the spirit. It soothes the soul. It speaks to our inner being. And drumming recalls. It reminds us of who and whose we are and where we ought to be headed. And so, drumming is
Mhm.
spiritual. Drumming is it releases your blood pressure. It reduces stress. It
Mhm.
strengthens your arms. It strengthens your upper body, torso. Drumming is the language of our ancestors, and drumming was taken from us, taken away from us when we came over to the Americas during the transatlantic slave trade. That was one of they took it away when they caught the slaves in the basement one day drumming and in a trance, in a spiritual trance. And so they this is true. And so they became afraid, and they saw the power of drumming, the effect that it had on the slaves, and so they banned drumming. And now I find it interesting because I am of the mindset that whenever something is prohibited, or whenever someone or some entity is trying to prevent us from doing something, then that matter ought to be investigated furthermore.
Mhm.
I guess I'm of the daring spirit. And so I began to look into drumming, and I realized the power of drumming during the Black Arts Festival. I believe it was 2000, 2001. And they had uh, a drumming summit with all
Mhm.
of the drummers globally. Africa, the
Really?
indigenous, the indigenous folks, everyone, and they gathered. And one of my major observations was there were no fights, there were no
Mhm.
mishaps. Everyone was at peace,
Mhm.
everyone was content, everyone was happy. And
Mhm.
then I got the pleasure, I had the distinct honor and pleasure to chauffeur uh, Baba Tunde and his gang around
Mhm.
town. And you
Mhm.
know me, being the hospitable person that I am, I showed him everywhere. I remember us
Okay.
even going to Sylvia's restaurant across from the city hall. Sylvia's
Okay.
used to be there.
Was this in Sylvia's in New York or Sylvia now in Atlanta?
So, well, it was Sylvia isn't in Atlanta anymore, but it
Oh.
was it was in the 2000s. And
Mhm.
Baba Tunde and them enjoyed the meal. And then Baba Tunde began to explain to me some of the secrets of drumming and the hidden messages within drumming, and
Mhm.
why we should not shun drumming, and
Okay.
why
Okay.
drumming should be imbued within our soul and spirit. And I'm on the mindset that if we had drumming, there will be less mental illness,
Mhm.
uh, as according to for African Americans,
Mhm.
because we function on a different rhythm. But anyway,
Mhm.
that's a whole nother subject. Yes, drumming is in the background, and welcome to BongaDadaBonga, where sisters speak
All
whenever they
right.
want to.
We want you to turn up that drumming a little bit for us, Coach. And as
Okay,
you turn the drumming up, we're just going to take a few minutes and listen as you go and get your notes.
can you hear it?
Barely.
Can you hear it?
Barely.
Hold on.
That's better. I can hear
Okay.
that.
Okay.
So as Coach is going to step away right now and go look for some of her notes, we're just going to listen to that drumming music in the background. I will say to you that I've always been fascinated by drumming. Drumming is what led me towards African dance. Oh yeah, yeah, flat out. It was absolutely the drumming. And I will tell you that at one point in my life, when I lived in West Africa, in the country of Ghana, I was a student at the University of Ghana. And while I was there, they had a whole musical department. And I got a chance to study music and dance in Ghana at the University of Ghana. And my teacher trainer was a gentleman by the name of Kwashi Amibavor. Kwashi Amibavor. Kwashi used to play the drums in the palace of the king in Ghana. And he was also a member of the Ghanaian dance ensemble. And the dance ensemble would travel across the world with their dancers and their drummers and their dancing. And on one of his occasions where he came to America, playing at the various universities and theaters across town, America was so taken with Kwashi and his drumming until they didn't want him to go back to Africa. And in fact, he didn't. He wound up staying in America. And I want you to know that Kwashi has been in America now, I'm going to say for 40 or maybe even 50 some years. But he started out performing at the universities with the university, with the Ghana Dance Ensemble. And then from there, he would do master classes in drumming. And America, like I say, fell in love with him. And he spent the last 40 years of his life in America, where he's been teaching drumming and dancing all across America. All across America. He did find and slay a beautiful African American woman by the name of Sharon, and they live in Los Angeles. Kwashi is now in his 80s. I met him in the 70s. Okay, he's in his 80s now. Um, but he's still with us. And if we can get him to be on a show just to come and share with us some words of wisdom, that would be great. I hope I can invite him in and he'll get a chance to come in during the month of June when we're celebrating fathers and men 70 years plus. So we hope we can bring him in at that time. All right, that you can get to meet him. Coach, are you ready to talk about what
Yes,
is
I
Bonga Dada Bonga?
am. Yes, I am. Greetings, blessings, and salutations to everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. A new bonga dada
And you
bonga.
can turn the drumming down.
Okay,
Turn the drumming down.
I
Thank
am.
you.
Give me a second.
Ooh, that sounds good.
I am telling you that I have been listening to the entire morning, and I am elated. Bonga dada
Very good.
bonga, a new platform for women's voices, a site, point, a space that thrives to amplify voices of women and survivors who have been historically silenced. Bonga Dada Bonga joins a growing list of service organizations and supporters of women causes in countries across North America, Latin America, the Pacific Rim, and Africa. You will hear phenomenal, extraordinary, event, heartbreaking stories of some of the most courageous, powerful, and inspiring women, girls, and some men too, you will ever meet. Each and every one of them is a superhero. And at Bonga Dada Bonga, we are honored and proud to share their colorful biographies, experiences, narratives, testimonies, and stories with you. Welcome
All
to
right.
Bonga Dada Bonga.
Bonga, dada bonga.
Why Bonga Dada Bonga is important. to dispel the myths and misconceptions about what women roles are, what women can do, and in fact, what women around the globe are doing. It is an excellent opportunity to generate visibility, familiarity, understanding, comprehension, realization, and support of women's aspirations, of which there are many, and promote awareness, raising about women in many cultures from a diversity of cultures in Namibia, South America, Ukraine, Israel, Kenya, and other countries. Thank you for tuning in to BongaDadaBonga, a new platform for women's voices every Thursday live at 11 a.m. New York time, 7 p.m. East Africa time.
All
Queen,
right. Thank you for that, Coach. So, what we want to say is that Bonga Dada Bonga delivers the opinions, the commentary, and analysis on matters at hand. We do give you up to date, real live news. We're not going to do a news coverage tonight. Tonight, what we think we want to do is to just talk about Women's History Month 2023. And we're going to reflect on Women's History Month 2022. Okay, that's what we want to do. All right, and by doing that, we first want to talk just a little bit about Women's History Month itself. Coach?
okay, Women's History Month was created 38 years ago, um, and it became global in 19, I believe, 83, and huh? And from
Yeah.
then on, we have been celebrating women's history,
Yes.
celebrating the advances that women have made in society, celebrating the culture, celebrating their medical advances. Like
Hmm.
the other day, I was looking up women in medicine and their contribution to the health field. And
Yes.
I don't have all my notes with me right now, but there was one that uh, uh, discovered um, sickle cell anemia
Hmm.
and was able to deal with that. And so there's a lot of things in history that women have contributed to and that we should all join together to illuminate. Did you need me to say something else, Queen?
Well, no, we're just gonna speak from our heart, okay,
Oh,
about Women's History Month and some of the events that have actually taken place. I just want to say that Women's History Month became a month in 1987.
oh, I'm sorry.
Before that, no, no, it's okay. I just wanted to give the facts, and the fact is 1987. Before a month, it was a week, and before a week, it was a day. But we're very happy to report that it is now a complete month, and it is celebrated throughout the United States, the United Kingdom, and Austria. It also corresponds with International Women's Day on March 8th. Okay, and the theme for this year is celebrating women who tell their stories. So now, why we celebrate Women's History Month, it leads us to women's strength and women's willpower. And there's something that the word should celebrate, not just on Women's History Month, but it's something we should celebrate, in fact, all year. Because the woman is someone who can give birth to a new life. A woman is someone who can bring a new life into this world. And by seeing the history of all the hardships that a woman has been through to now being the one to take charge of the world, the status of a woman has evolved with the changing times. Okay, the status of women has evolved with the changing times. What changing times with women would you like to speak to, Coach? And you can use any profession, any area, any industry.
I wanted today. I wanted to talk about motherhood,
Okay.
motherhood, and the continuity of motherhood. And what I want to talk about is uh, when women began to work outside of the home, uh, things began to kind of lose itself.
Mhm.
And America turned America turned from housewife to laborers, and laborers then turned to uh, ignoring the children, and certain duties and responsibilities being left aside. One of the major things that I have observed is that the children are no longer cherished, adored, and loved. They too have somehow fallen by the wayside. And I want to remind women that our first and foremost responsibility and duty on this dimension is, one, to worship the God within, and two, to always nurture and protect and train our children in the morals and spirituality, and being loving and kinder and gentler towards humanity, to always be of service. We are all here, men, women, and children, and senior citizens, to be of service
All right.
to one to the other. No one better than the other. We're all here to serve in humility, patience, and perseverance towards each other. And I really am hoping for a change in our consciousness, because Dr. Barbara Rip, bless her soul, always reminded us that it begins in the mind. A thought, a prayer already answered. And so we ought to be working on our consciousness. And the way that I see that is that breathing controls our thoughts. And therefore our mind is now, frees up our mind to continue to be the master over our body. And what's the sister's name with consciousness for living, that taught us the breathing? Shaw. You know who I'm talking about?
Oh, you talking about Shreya.
Sister Shreya
Yeah.
taught us the straw breathing. And then she went a little further after we got off the talk. She proceeded to explain to us why they were on the mission, the institute, to teach globally the purpose and objective of breathing, and why it was critical to learn to master your thoughts, which in turn frees up your mind to then be the dominant factor, as opposed to your thoughts, because you know very well that your thoughts can get you in trouble. Your thoughts can get you in trouble.
Okay.
You're thinking one thing, and next thing you know, it wasn't. Dr. Barbara also taught us, Rip, rest her soul, that life and death is in the power of the tongue. And that is a very powerful adage in spiritual law, because when you say something and you put it out there in the universe, you may want to apologize later, but that thought has already been sent out into the universe, permeated, resonated into the individual's inner being. And it's very hard to then forget that it never happened.
Okay.
Self-control is very critical. But what the second thing that I wanted to talk about was loving our children, nurturing our children, understanding that they're a precious cargo, and understanding that it is our job to pass on the culture, the spirituality, and the humanity, the compassion, and the caring. And somehow, somewhere, we're losing the humanity of ourselves. And
Mm.
so we really need to take a pause. This is why I'm playing the drumming in the background, because drumming heals and drumming recalls and reminds us of once what we were,
Mhm.
and enlightens us onto the possibility of where we can be or take
Mhm.
ourselves to. And so
All right.
I I um I realized that with Bailey, um when I left, she was cooing and crying for everything, and
And tell
within
us
the
who Bailey is. Tell us who
Bailey
Bailey
is
is.
my Bailey is my seventh grandchild. Bailey is now 8 months wise, and Bailey loves reading.
Mhm.
And she had the book. She was getting ready to put it in her mouth, and I said, ah, 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 ah. And she looked at me, and I said, say book. And she was trying to put her tongue together,
Oh.
you know, to say book. And I realized that children, all they need is quality time, constructive engagement, uh, fostering their creativity. Turn off all the electronics. Parents, please,
Mhm.
please, for the love of God, limit the electronic engagement to perhaps 2 hours per week. Limit the television engagement to perhaps on the weekend, and they have to earn it. Please, too much electronics, too much ticky tick tack tack. I'm telling you, it stifles their imagination. It
Mm.
stifles their creativity. It stuns their mobility, their agility. They become sedentary. They no longer want to ride the bike. They don't want to play jacks. They don't.
No, no,
They
they
don't
don't.
want
No,
to
they don't.
jump rope. They don't want to double dutch. They don't want to climb on the rope.
What do
They
they
no
want to
longer.
do? What do they
They
want to
just
do?
they just want to sit and watch television or play
And
on their electronics, their phone. And we're going to have to return back to what we know is the right thing to do. And I promise you this, that if you put a couple of these things into practice. I had my play daughter, which her son is 24 and her other son is 22. And she said, Umi, the best thing you did for me was when you came down to my condo and saw the boys on the playing those games, and
mhm.
you told me that the people that make the games don't even have their kids playing the games, and why would I have my kids on the game all day and all night long? And that I told her she needed to set limitations of how long they could play the game, and also they had to earn it. You see, we have stopped teaching our children to earn things. So
Uh-huh.
now they think that things fall from the sky. I don't know what
Well, I think they think that.
they
I
and
think they
and
think that.
and they have lost the sense of appreciation and gratitude and a real humility and understanding and compassion for their
Mhm.
parents. Parents, beware.
Mm.
Beware. Do not begin something with your children that you cannot continue. And at the end of the game, beware of the ramifications that comes from what you thought was love. But I'm sorry, it was not love.
Uh-oh.
When something goes wrong with your children, you must need to take a pause and look in the mirror and ask yourself, what role
What
did
went
I
wrong?
play in that
What went wrong?
situation?
Mm.
And so
Mhm.
that's what I wanted us to 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 kind of bring woman's history to closure, but to also to remember why our children are tantamount to anything, and respecting our elders, because there's a Yoruba proverb that states when someone dies, a library burns.
Mhm.
I'm going to repeat that again. When
Mhm.
someone dies, a library burns.
Well,
And I am suggesting to you to get your children to create journals, to get a tape recorder, to take their granny, their grandpa, their uncle, their auntie, to ask them questions, to
mhm.
create an ontology of the family, because we're losing a lot of things in the mix at the expense of the new age, or the digital age. The
Digital
digital
age.
age.
All right, all
Um,
right. Okay.
Back
Now,
to you, Queen.
As Coach began her conversation today, ladies and gentlemen, she was talking about roles of mothers. And then she went on to talk about the children. But you see, a woman has been role playing ever since she was born into this world. Oh, yes, we have. She's gifted to be a person of strength and someone basically who is molded by a lot of love and a lot of care. So when we talk about a woman's status by comparing past history, okay, we will come across how cruel the world has been really against women. So henceforth, Women's History Month is observed to recognize the contributions made by women in society throughout history. Now, mind you, when we talk about the contributions that women have made, mind you that a lot of the contributions we've made have not gone down as contributions that were made by women. They did not go down as contributions made by us. So we want you to know that we're talking about in Women's History Month not only the contribution of women in the past and in the present, but we're also talking about the challenges that women have to go through, the biases that women have to go through. So we just take the month of March and dedicate it to teaching people about the significant contributions that have been made by women and also the challenges that women have had to face. Now, you may say, well, my God, why are we doing this? And why are we doing this for such a long period of time? Well, hell, we're doing it for a whole month. Okay. And we've been sharing about powerful women of the past and the present, not forgetting to let the women themselves tell their stories. So let's take a look at some of what we covered this Women's History Month 2023 in our Women Telling Their Stories. Well, we did have on the show a young man and a young woman who were caught up in sex trafficking. You may have seen that episode. Okay, and they gave us a very full, detailed story on what happened to them, what happened to the woman, and what happened to the man, both who have been caught up in human trafficking. Luckily, they were saved by an organization called HAART, HAART, located in Kenya, West Africa. HAART was able, they were able to communicate with HAART even while they were still in those countries of Lebanon and the countries that they were in doing sex trafficking. All right. Somehow they were able to make contact with HAART, and HAART was able to get them out of there, got them back, and working with them to stand on their feet again. The young lady does have a child. Okay. They told us about how horrific the experience was and how that it could happen to anybody. And lessons learned. What are some of the things that we learned from human trafficking? We learned that when people want to send you abroad or send you to another country to work, you have to do all the research that must be done on who that company is. And if something doesn't work out right, or if something seems funny, it may be a sign to let it go. That's one of the tips that we receive from the human traffickers when they're processing your papers to take you abroad to work, they say. And if everything isn't working out, don't be so anxious about getting on that plane. Consider those are some of the warning signs that the people caught up in human trafficking have asked us to take a look at, to watch. Thing number two, when it comes time for you to be paid your money, um, the very first time that they give you some excuse about why they can't pay you, that's the very excuse that you need to get yourself out of that situation. Because they'll continue, according to those who were in human trafficking, they will continue to tell you, right, about about your money, telling you there's some problem with your company or some problem with your country, is some problem with your M-Pesa or whatever it is. They come with a bunch of small tactics, but they keep telling you, they reassure you that your money is fine and you don't have to worry about it. They reassure you of that. But meanwhile, most of the people who go out on human trafficking never really receive the money for the work that they've done. Okay, so that was one of the, I thought, significant things that we learned about during this Women's History Month season. Okay, the second issue that we addressed was FGM. FGM, female genital mutilation. Now, I know a lot of you never heard of that. A lot of you don't know what that is. FGM, female mutal genital. It's hard for me to even get it out of my mouth. Female genital mutilation. And technically, what happens is men decide that women should not have pleasure from sex. Men decide that women need to have their clitoris either slit, cut off. I mean, there's 3 or 4 different ways that you can do FGM. They decide, and they brainwash the women into thinking that it's cultural, and that if they don't do this, then they won't get married. And because their mother did it, and because their auntie did it, and their grandmother did it, those women are the ones who tell them, for the most part, that they too must go through this process. And so, who are these figures in your life? They're powerful figures. They're figures you believe in and trust in and talk to. So if they're the ones telling you that you should go through this FGM, if they're the ones telling you, somehow you kind of believe it must be okay. But the women went on to express in grave detail how painful such a situation is. They went on to explain in grave detail how that it takes months and months and months and months and months of healing in such a sensitive place in your body. Okay. They went on to say that often women get some kind of bleeding disorder. They went on to say that some women get involved with something called fistula. That means you cannot hold your urine. That means that you cannot hold your feces. As a result of this FGM that's been happening to a lot of our women. So we just have a whole population of women now who have those issues. So what we want to do on the what we want to do on the BongaDadaBonga show, because it's about saying what is so. And we want you to be informed, and we want you to know. Now, if we say something that may appear unethical, if you will, to your ears, we want to apologize for that. But we're not speaking necessarily even using our own words. We're using the words that define and describe what has been going on. So we are here to bring awareness. We are here to have dialogue, discussions, and conversations on what matters. And these are issues in the world that matter, because there are still women today, to this very day, still having to go through FGM. We've been to visit them in their hometown. You come, Queen Mother will take you there. So these are issues that are there that we want to know about, and within the show, we seek to address these issues socially, economically, and culturally. We seek to address them socially. For women who've been involved in FGM, they don't want to be around other women. Most of them are very embarrassed about it all, and they don't have much to say. Economically, if they can grow any crops, which they can't grow a lot in the areas where they live, because it's like an arid area and they don't get a lot of rain. So they make these gorgeous beaded necklaces. Okay, these gorgeous beaded necklaces, and they sell those. We found a few women who were also selling honey, and a few who were selling clothing, but for the most part, everybody was selling their beaded artwork. Okay, so economically, that's not going to cut it 100%. It's just not. So we talked on that, and they've shared other things they've done to help them along financially. Culturally, the women don't want FGM. They're told if they don't undergo it, they won't get a husband.
Coach, may I add something to that?
Sure.
What I saw when they were sharing their story was the true inner strength and conviction, and the power and the belief that they have within themselves. And that is to be commended. And those two ladies, wanted to create like an institute or a school to begin to teach the young women that they don't have to do FGM. And so I really appreciate it. And further, I think that I want to investigate, how did this thing come about? What was the main objective? I know what the main objective was, but what was the inner reasoning that drove men to want to mutilate these women?
Because they're selfish, and they want to be the one to get the pleasure, and they feel like if a woman keeps her clitoris, that she just might get too much pleasure. So let's remove it for her so we can get all the pleasure.
It's got to be more than that.
Well, that's part of it. That's only one part of it.
Yeah.
The some other points.
Well, whatever it is,
it's sexual, and the other one is a form of control over the woman.
Okay, those are two.
Okay, they don't want the woman to have the sexual pleasure. It's a form of control over the woman. And number three, they want a virgin wife, even though they're out there messing with everything that moves. They want a virgin wife. Three reasons.
Yeah.
And so they start telling the women that if they don't do FGM, that they won't be able to get husbands. So they go through it, but it's like they say, it's very painful. They never forget it. It's an incident that remains alive in their minds all the time.
I find it interesting that the men would want the woman to be virgins, and they don't expect, there's nothing expected of them. And this permeates through all cultures. All cultures, behind the scene, in the back of their head, the woman ought to be virgins in order for them to get married. And as a matter of fact, they'll pay a higher dower, a higher bride prize, if the woman is a virgin, if it can be proven that the woman is a virgin. And some of these outlandish expectations, which is a male dominated patriarchal origin, needs to be reevaluated, and we need to come up with some new standards of equality and justice for all.
Yes, well, one of the things that the women from Samburu County made clear is that they constantly go into the various rural areas, into the various villages, even into the schools and into the churches, and talk about why FGM must stop. So it is an awareness. It is an awareness on the part of the woman, but it's also, see, in some cases, the woman, the child could be coming home from school, and a group of men will gang up on her and capture her, if you will, and hold her down and take her to the women who will do this cutting.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, they will. And often when the young girls run away and go stay with their relatives so that they don't get the FGM, and they come back home, if you will, to the village, they get beaten severely. I mean, severely. Okay, they get beaten severely. So, but what we want to do is what the women have told us we can do to help them, and that is to continue to spread the word and create awareness around why FGM must stop, and FGM must stop. Okay. Um,
Queen,
Here's
I
a quote
had
that I love very much. That
okay.
quote says, "I am a woman, and I get to define what that means." A
I
strong
like
woman
that.
understands. Yeah,
I
a
like
strong
that
woman.
one. I
Yes,
am a woman,
and I get to define
and
what that
I
means.
get to
Yeah.
define what that means.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Yes. And I have a few quotes here, Coach. I'd like to read a few, and I'd like for you to give me your opinion.
Okay, and also I wanted to share 10 things that we must do when we find ourselves under fire.
Okay.
Go ahead with your quotes.
Okay. Okay. Here's what one woman had to say. She says, "I've been absolutely terrified every moment of my life, but I've never let it keep me from doing a single thing that I wanted to do." Ah,
Huh?
ah. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations and they can be very tough. She's saying she's been in tough situations, but she didn't let that stop her from the things that she wanted to do. I love that quote. And don't think about making women fit the world. Think about making the world to fit women.
Mm-hmm.
That's what time it is. Over to you, Coach.
Okay. 10 things to do. I really like that one about not stop being in situations and not allowing it to stop you from doing what you had to do, because I had to do that when I was raising my 7 children and found myself in the middle of a divorce, and uh, not knowing what my next move was going to be. But
Wow.
I had 7 children looking at me,
Hey.
and hey, hey, and 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 me looking at myself, and uh I always knew that my role, my job was to take care of my children. Um, and I thought about dropping a few off here and there and everywhere. Don't get me wrong. I thought about disseminating everybody where they belong. Okay. And then I also thought about the love that they had for each other and the bond that they had created. And so, yes, I too have thought about that, but also knew that I had to carry on in spite of no matter what.
Yes, yes.
And
And we learned that one of the biggest things, one of the very big things, right, is that the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any.
And the second thing is this: whenever you find yourself in any situation, it is best for you to surround yourself with spiritual people, older adults, someone that can give you a word of wisdom or two.
Well,
And that's what I always found myself doing. Most of my friends were older than me,
mhm,
and I don't know, it was an affinity that I had with my granny. Granny saved me from myself.
mhm. Hey,
And
well,
yeah, and so I've always been around older people, uh, people that can steer me in the right direction. Or what I have done in a lot of instances is sit back and just be the observant,
mhm,
observe and learn, do,
mhm.
go, do, and be.
Well,
Reverend Ron Brown taught us that one.
I
Go,
remember that one.
do, and be. Gaddafi. Go, do, and be. And so, yes, women are resilient, women are strong, women have an internal compass. You remember that book, Men are from
Men
Mars
from
and Women are
Mars,
from
women
Venus.
from Venus. Yes, I love that
And
book.
yeah, there's some truth to that. And women have had to, in spite of no matter what, always show up and always do.
Mhm, mhm.
No matter, even if you didn't feel like it. You know how
That's
some
right.
days you wake up and you just don't want to move.
Yeah.
And you know deep within that if you don't get out of that bed and if you don't move to point B,
Mm.
what it's gonna fall apart.
Hey, you see,
So
that's
maybe
right. That's right. We don't want to get up sometimes, but what we realize that is that we have to get up, and we go ahead and get up, and then we sit back and we look around. We understand that the success of every woman should be the inspiration to another woman. We should raise up each other. We should always raise up each other and make sure that you're being courageous, be strong, be extremely kind, and above all, be humble. Those are words from none other
but
than Miss Serena Williams.
here's what I want to share.
Okay.
That we are stronger than we have come to believe or think.
Oh, yeah.
We are much, much more um, stronger than we have been allowed to portray or to demonstrate or to act upon.
Yes. But some of us are acting upon it, and
Yeah,
some of us are not. But some of us are acting upon it. Today, I was fortunate enough to go to a Women's History Month event 2023 with an organization called Women in Business, where I sit on the board as an advisor. There were over 200 some women there today, and they had come out to hear the words for Women's History Month 2023. And basically, they talked a lot about the digital age and why women need to engage the digital age more, why we need to learn more about how to be online. It's okay to call your grandkids in to help. It really is. But by the same token, some of this you're going to have to learn on your own. So if the
yes,
grandchild isn't there, you can still operate. You can still do whatever it is that you would like to do. So it talked about women. It talked about the fact that there are a lot more women in the digital space today than there were 10 years ago. But they're saying even though there's a lot more women in the digital space today than 10 years ago, it's still small in comparison to the men. Just like the salaries, you know, women's salary in America is now at about 80% of what the man's salary is. In Africa, I don't even think it's half. Okay. So we still have a ways to go. So let us choose to celebrate at each of our successes as we did today with the room. We had over 200 women, and there must have been at least 20 or 30 men. And so I was in the room were a lot of women business owners, many of whom I've had the pleasure of training in one way or the other. And so Queen Mother was just feeling so good there today. And I know one thing that makes me happy is something called flowers. So I approached somebody about going to get a flower for every woman in the place.
Oh.
And guess what happened?
You got flowers.
We got flowers. And
That was nice.
every woman in the place got a flower. And there's something about a flower that lights up a woman's life. I know it lights up mine.
I know I love flowers. I love flowers. Give me my flowers now. I don't know what's going to happen when I cross over. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I would like to have my flowers now.
Yes. So we did a flower now today at the Women in Business Women's History Month event, which concluded. It was very good. And I also just want to thank Nana for taking part in that. Nana took part in that celebration today. Okay.
Good.
Nana took part in that celebration. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are nearing the closing hour for BongaDadaBonga on this 30th of June, 2023. And we want to thank you for tuning in with us.
Do you want my 10 points?
Yes. No, we got time. We have about 4 minutes.
Yes.
We have about 4 minutes. But I'm finishing up my part. And then you're going to close out the show.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm just saying we're happy that you're here. And tune in again next year for Women's History Month 2024. And Coach has 10 key points that she'd like to share with you. Coach?
Yes. Okay. 10 things to do when you're under fire. Number 1, be still. Number 2, pray. Number 3, fast. Number 4, spiritual ocean bath. Go to the ocean and give yourself a bath. Number 5, drumming. Number 6, music. Music. Get up and dance. Dance. Number 7, practicing patience. And patience means long suffering. Patience is patience. Number 8, read aloud. Number 9, journal.
Wait, read.
Number 8 is reading out loud.
Okay.
Number 9 is journaling. Number 10, keep connected with families and friends.
Okay.
Number 11, walk without a destination. Just start walking. Have no destination in mind. Walk without your phone. Don't take your electronics with you. Number 13, lovingly detach. And number 14, be of service to others. Take yourself outside of the situation always. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing those points with us. And if you will send them to me, I will post them into the Bonga space sometime during the week. Now, as we enter into next month, the month of April, we've got 3 or 4 sets of things we want to do with you in the.
Oh no. Oh no. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it appears that Queen Dashanaba has lost her connection, and so I'm going to read the advertisement. Soul Vegetarian Restaurant. Phone number is 0742-654-810. Offers cooking classes to Lucille's Kitchen, sweet potato pie, and other mouth
Of course, we
watering
will
treats.
have a
Call
yeah.
0732-567-327. Queen Mother
Okay.
Speaks Talk Show, Wednesdays live at 9 a.m. New York time, 5 p.m. East African time. Click on Facebook.com/Queen Mother Speaks. Bonga, Dada Bonga, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Kenyan time, 11 p.m. New York Eastern time. Click on Facebook.com/Bonga, Dada Bonga. And that is all I have for now for Bunga Dada
Okay.
Bonga.
Okay. Well, we'll
And
end
now
here
back to
anyway
you.
on time. We want to
Back to
thank
you.
our guests for tuning in today. Thank you, Lady Christine, for being with us. She stayed with us through the entire show tonight. Thank you so much for that. And we look forward to being with you again on next week, every Thursday, every week, live at 7 p.m. Bonga Dada Bonga, which means
Speak, sister, speak.
speak, sister, speak.
Sister, speak.
Speak,
Bonga Dada
sister, speak.
Bonga.
Bonga dada bonga, bonga dada bonga, bonga dada
Bonga
bonga
Dada
dada
Bonga
bonga
Dada
dada
Bonga Dada
bonga.
Bonga.